readers have caught up. I mean, there was a very interesting survey today by the UN Development Programme, which I think was one of the largest polls ever, 1.2 million people in 50 countries, of which 69% of those between 14 and 18 said that they think this is a hugely important story, and a similar number, slightly lower, for those over 60. So I think readers now are very engaged in the story.
Well, that's a good way of putting it, because what that survey seems to show is there is a great sense of anxiety. And perhaps if you look at the climate change story, it is one of negatives and anxiety. I mean, this is a decade of ocean science looking at, yes, science, knowledge, discovery. How difficult is it to get the, if you like, the positives, the extraordinary into your stories?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it happens that more often than not, the stories that get to the homepage or the front pages of our newspaper tend to be the sort of dystopian stories, the alarming stories, and they need to be written. But one of the challenges we have, we actually do a huge amount of coverage on the more hopeful aspects of the story, and there are many of them. And one of the challenges is, how do we highlight those stories? How do we move from dystopia to hope? I mean, there's and this touches every aspect of our coverage. I mean, the business story is a very interesting one. You saw yesterday Larry Fink's announcement in his annual proclamation about how climate change is going to be central to the way they're looking at, and this is an organization, Blackstone, that has 9 trillion in assets that they control. And they have a huge influence on this. So the business story is interesting, but the human story is incredibly interesting. And there are many, many, many organizations out there that are addressing climate in ways that are positive. And we are covering those stories, and we need to work hard at highlighting them.
That is an interesting message, actually, for a lot of the audience, that if you've got good stories, you've also got to sell them. You can't just assume they're going to be picked up. You've got to really push them.
Our job at the New York Times is not to campaign, it's to inform. Some other media take a slightly different view on climate. The Guardian, for example, have, you know, they believe they have to report the story, but they also have a campaigning element to their approach. We're not an advocacy organization. We really view this as a story that is central to our mission, to inform our readers and to cover all aspects of it.
Your job in particular, actually, Stephen, is to sell, isn't it? To sell the New York Times, digitally in particular. So let me ask you this in very simple terms. Is climate change a good seller for you?
I think the answer to that is yes. In that, look, my challenge is to help people recognize that the New York Times is not just a paper of record for the United States, but is a newspaper that can give, a news organization that can give a very strong perspective, an international perspective, to readers all over the world. And therefore, subjects that connect us all, that are borderless, climate, gender, those types of subjects, for me, are very important, because they help us demonstrate our relevance to readers and the connectivity, our hyper-connected world.